Hey YouTube, I'm back with another video. So today I'm going to tell you guys just some tips and advice on starting nursing school. So what I decided to do was I didn't just want to give you guys my view. I wanted to get other people's advice and tips or opinions about nursing school. So I asked some of my friends, and so I have three different friends who's gonna tell you about their experience. The first two girls that you'll see, they did the same program as me, so they went to an LPN program. But the last person, she did an accelerated bachelor's program. So whether you're doing an RN or an LPN, this advice works both ways, so stay tuned. First tip that I would say is definitely buy a good pair of shoes and buy compression socks, because you're going to be in clinicals for 8 hours. Some people do 12 hours, and your feet are going to hurt basically, so you're going to need a good pair of comfy shoes. I don't have a brand I can suggest because my feet, they just hurt all throughout clinicals. So if y'all know a pair, let me know. But that's my first tip. My second tip would be to not compare grades, because just because your classmate made straight A's, and for example, if you made straight C's, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a good nurse. So I wouldn't stress about that someone else got straight A's. So another tip that I would tell you guys is to save as much as possible. I know a lot of people, they can't stop working when they get into nursing school, but having some money put down, I feel like it would lighten the load or lighten the burden of what you have to pay for. So at least you have like a little cushion there. If anything, if you have to, maybe you have to call out of work one day and you're panicking because you're like, oh, I can't call out of work because then I won't make any money. So at least if you have some money saved, like you won't have to like stress so much as, oh, like I have to work so I can pay this light bill and pay my tuition. So I would definitely say save a little bit before you go into nursing school. That's a big tip that I would say. Another tip I would give you guys is to know your medications, or you can start studying them before nursing school starts, to be honest. A good website for that is Picmonic. So I'm a visual learner. I like to see, like these little silly cartoons and little, tricks like that. That helps me remember. So Picmonic is really good because they do everything like visually, they draw little like characters and things like that. So it helps you remember, like it helps you connect medications to things. So that helped me learn my medications in school. Another thing I would tell you guys is definitely try to check out the school that you want to go to. I know for some schools it's hard because some schools are, huge campus, so you don't really, like you just kind of see, the outside. But what I would suggest is whenever you're doing orientation, or if you're just going on campus to buy books, or whenever you're going on campus, if you happen to see, like a student on the campus, in the parking lot, in the cafeteria, wherever it is, I'd pull them aside and I'd be like, hey, so what program are you in? Who knows? They might be like, oh, nursing. So, like I would definitely ask them like, oh, well, how do you like the instructors? Like, how is the school itself in general? I would definitely research my school online, because online is going to tell you something different from what an actual student that you're going to pull aside will tell you. So I would definitely say research that, because you don't want to put in all this time and effort and put a deposit down and do all this stuff, and then come to find out that your school doesn't really teach. Like, you kind of just sitting here teaching yourself, you know what I mean? So not to say that my school is like that, but I'm just saying that that's something that I would tell you guys, is to try to, find somebody to talk to, even if it's in the parking lot, like grab somebody and say, hey, how is the school? You know what I mean? So that's another tip that I'd give you guys. Last tip for you guys is definitely record if you're able to. So for my program, they gave us a HESI review at the end, and they also gave us an NCLEX review. So if you're allowed to record in any type of review session or even in class, I would definitely recommend doing that, because when you're driving to school or to work or wherever you're going, you could always play that. And when you're going to bed at night, or when you're just, at home cleaning, or whatever you're doing, you can always replay that. So I would definitely tell you guys to make sure y'all record if you're able to.
I just have some things to share before starting nursing school, or if you're just going into nursing school. I have some notes on my phone, so if I'm looking at my phone, that's why. So my first thing is definitely make time for school. I have night class, so I got home late, so do not stay up late at night. That was very hard for me because I was used to staying up late. Just don't do it. Go to sleep early, get that rest in. If you're gonna watch TV, don't watch TV. Open a book, study, do work. And it'll suck, but you have to do it if you want the grades and you want to pass. And let me see this. Another thing was don't slack either. Don't copy off the internet, because when you take those tests that you don't have the internet, when you're in a room and people are watching you and you've been Googling and you don't know the answers, it's going to come back at you and they're going to be like, oh, she has such a good grade, why is she getting bad test grades only when she's being watched? So definitely don't make that mistake. Another thing was I was never in the medical field. I was never a CNA, never a med tech or anything, so that was definitely really hard for me because I feel like a lot of people in my class were. I don't even know if there are any that weren't. So it was definitely hard, like starting the program when we were learning all the CNA work. I didn't know any of it, so buddy up, find someone who was a CNA if you weren't yourself, because they will help you a lot, because it's not easy work. CNA work is very hard, so find that buddy. And another thing is I am a single mom. My son's 2, and that was another thing that was really hard. You have to plan. Babysitters are very expensive, so having a family who can support you and watch your child, even if it's for only a couple days a week, is really helpful, saves some money. I couldn't study whenever I wanted to. I had to study when he was sleeping or doing naps, so it was definitely hard. Took a lot of effort, so, or get them to watch a movie, get them to take a nap, do what you have to do to study because you need to study. It's very important. And I think that's all the tips I have, so thank you.
I would have done differently getting into nursing school would definitely be just doing research, especially on the careers that you particularly want to get into. With me, I did a ton loads of research before actually getting into, because there's so much things that involve nursing and nursing school in general. So I would say try to do as much research as possible, because it could be something that you realize you didn't want to do in the beginning. So I would say just look up schools, look up where you can work, maybe scholarship for schools. Research is definitely important, and I would have definitely, I think, done more research. Another thing is time management. That's extremely important when studying for tests and just being organized. I found myself having some problems keeping to one task because I'm spending more time on one thing than the other. So I would say time management is so important, and just having a supportive group is another thing. Some people get into nursing school and they find out they lose their friends or their family is just, acting different. I think that if you really look for people who are supportive and who just is there for you, because it could be so draining, it could be so overwhelming. So having the support group, the proper friends that actually care, like what you want to rant that day, anything like that, finding a support group is extremely important in nursing school. So that would be some of my tips and some things that I would have done more, or what I would just advise people to do getting into nursing school. Okay, one more thing, a couple more things I forgot to mention when going into nursing school, and some of the things that may be really important to you. I would say knowing your learning style. Knowing that can definitely help you with how you actually study or, learn with a group. Some people are visual learners, some people are more tactile. Just learning your style, knowing your style will make it definitely easier for you to study and pass those tests. Another thing I would say is if you get into find a job being like a CNA or a med tech. I'm a med tech, and so I would say that it definitely helped me as far as going into the medical field. You get to see a lot of things, especially meds. I work with a lot of meds, so I've gotten used to seeing meds and understanding them, so that definitely helped me with drug cards. Being a CNA also really helps, I think, because you get to be one-on-one with that patient practically. So just getting into a healthcare position, while in nursing school can definitely help with the experience, so you won't be so shell-shocked while getting into the field and while in school. So that would be my tip, and those will be one of the things that I think people should really think about while getting into nursing school.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm currently working as a nurse in the cardiac ICU. I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience of becoming a nurse. I became a nurse as a second degree. So my second degree, I went to Rasmussen, where they offered an advanced Bachelor's of Science of Nursing program. So this program was 18 months long. And what I liked about Rasmussen was that they did quarters. So instead of having semesters, you'd go to school basically all year round for 11 weeks straight, and then you'd have a 2-week break. And then you would start new quarter, new classes, everything for the next quarter. So it's pretty cool if you really want to, you want to do nursing, you want to get it done really quickly. And that's was worked for me. Half of the program was online and then in person. So some of our classes, we probably have about 4 classes each quarter. Most of them in the beginning were more in person, and then they became to be online. And a lot of times you'd have an in-person component and then a lab part online, or however that worked out. So what was cool was you'd go to class for 10 weeks. Then the 11th week would be your finals week, and then you'd have your 2-week break. So you were able to complete this program in 18 months. Another good thing about Rasmussen was that it was accredited. I think that no matter where you're going to go to nursing school, you really need to find a program that is accredited, because a lot of hospitals, especially big hospitals, will only hire you if you graduate from an accredited school. So there's a lot of nursing schools that are popping up, so that definitely should be one of the things that you look for before applying. Another good thing was you needed to take the ATI. You had to take it to pass. First you had to take it to get in, and then you had to take it to pass each subject. So maternal child, fundamentals, whatever, pharmacology, all those things. So every time we took a class on campus, we would then later take the ATI. So the material, it would match up, but you definitely had to study a lot on how to pass an ATI test. The questions are very specific. They ask questions in a very specific manner. There's a lot of select all that apply. So studying for your ATI is what's going to help you pass your NCLEX. So being able to have a school that offered you ATI for each subject was really beneficial when it came around to having your final exam and then taking your NCLEX. So you would have to pass each of those in order to take your final comp exam. The comprehensive exam was in your last quarter. You had 2 attempts to take it, and you had to pass at least one of them in like the 80th percentile or something along those lines. And basically it was like a practice of your NCLEX, and it would show you, kind of reflect how you would do on your NCLEX. So it could be up to, I think, 250, 265 questions. And then you would see how you did. So that was very nerve-wracking, very stressful, but being able to pass that, you kind of feel a little bit more confident to take your NCLEX. Our school had a really good passing rate, and I think majority, if not all of my class, passed the NCLEX on their first try. So I felt pretty confident going into the NCLEX, and I think that you need to have a program that prepares you for that, because if you're going to a really short program and you're not getting tested the way nursing is going to test you, then you're learning things, but you're not really confident to take your NCLEX. Our school had a really good passing rate, and I think majority, if not all of my class, passed the NCLEX on their first try. So I felt pretty confident going into the NCLEX, and I think that you need to have a program that prepares you for that, because if you're going to a really short program and you're not getting tested the way nursing is going to test you, then you're learning things, but you're not really applying them or thinking about them in the light that you should, or the light that ATI wants you to. So I think that going to a school that uses ATI or some type of assessment to test each subject and then giving you a comprehensive exam is really beneficial. What else? So things that were beneficial to me in school. Number one, I would say having a job that you could make time for school. So like I said, sometimes you went to class, sometimes you had them online. Each quarter your schedule was different, so you needed a job that was very flexible with that. On top of that, you're gonna have a lot of tests. It's only a 10-week quarter, so every other week you're probably gonna have an exam. So I was making sure that I had money saved up before I even started this, so that I could take off without having to worry about money or my bills being paid. And then I also made sure that I had a job that I could either make my schedule or I can change my schedule very easily, because I don't think that your part-time job should be an excuse as to why you make it to class or why you study for your exam, anything like that. So having a flexible job or making sure you're able to make money some type of way, save money beforehand, would really take a lot of stress away. Another thing would be to make time for school. So you need to know that if you're doing an accelerated program, you're going to go through things quicker, right? So you have to make sure that every night you have time to study a lot of papers for the BSN program. And it's really important to not have to do other things at that time. So I was really fortunate where I didn't have any kids, I didn't have any distractions. I really had people helping me out, a really good support team. So I think that's really good, because it will become very stressful when you're doing a lot of work and you have clinicals and you have your own job and just a lot of things to manage. So time management is very important. Handling your stress is very important. And I think you can make it through by planning ahead. What else? Experience that I had before I became a nurse was I worked as a medical scribe in the emergency room. That job, I didn't really understand how beneficial that was until I was in nursing school and we had to learn how to do an assessment, a physical assessment. We had to learn medical terminology, pharmacology, all these things I had learned as a scribe. So I had to know my medical terminology. I started to understand what drugs were being prescribed for what we were giving people in instances of emergency. For instance, someone coming in with atrial fibrillation, new onset, no history, what are you gonna do? So kind of thinking about the process and the nursing process were skills that I was learning as a scribe that I didn't know. So I think that working in the healthcare field will definitely help you, because you're gonna pick up on things that later on are gonna come and help you. Not to mention, it'll be a lot easier to find a job when you have people in the healthcare field able to write you letters of recommendation or help you with networking, or even work as a nurse wherever you're working as a tech or a scribe or anything like that. So I hope that these tips help you, and I hope you succeed as a future nurse.
So that's it for this video. Thank you to everyone who did participate in this video. I appreciate y'all. If anyone has any questions or comments for any one of us who was in this video, just leave them below and like, comment, and subscribe.